So you've decided that you want to start making cosplays. Well, you came to the right place because today I'm going to make a tutorial on showing you how to get started doing that, primarily with the purpose of how to start a 3D print. What you need to start with is you need to open up your browser. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you will want to find a slicing software. Now, a slicing software is designed to take a 3D file and it will slice it into layers which a printer can read. So as you can see, what I have here, what that I recommend to you is Ultimaker Cura. Cura has been the one I've used the most in all of my 3D prints I've made, both of my cosplays I've made. So I recommend this one to you. It's very simple to use and it does not lack in options or profiles for printers. Cura is built with hundreds of printer models in mind from multiple different manufacturers. So it's a super simple starting process, and there are better ones out there, but for today's purpose, we're going to be using Cura. So once you figure out what release you need, right now they are on 5.6.0. So your next step becomes you're going to need a file now. An STL, which is a stereolithography file, will go into a slicer and be sliced properly for 3D printing. These are the ones I use the most. These are what I've always used. Now you can find these for free. You can buy them. There's a lot of options for how to get STLs. Thingiverse is a hobbyist paradise when you're starting out with 3D printing. It's designed by Ultimaker, which often why having Cura is the best, because most of these files, when they are uploaded to Thingiverse, are optimized for use with Cura. So you're going to want to look through, find something you need, something you want. Doesn't matter what it is. You know, you got Star Wars walkers, you've got whatever else. So because I primarily use this for cosplay, what we will look at today is a Mandalorian helmet. So as you can see, you type in the search bar, you pick what you want. There are tons of files here. It's all going to be a lot of personal preference based on the look, based on the design of it. There's a lot that you can pick from when it comes down to choosing a Mandalorian helmet. So this, as you can see, this is what you'll get when you pick on an STL. You'll get the title, you'll get the creator, when it was uploaded, but where you want to come is the files here. Now, sometimes you'll get ones where they are printed in pieces. So we'll just go ahead and click the download button and it'll pop up in the corner here. So once that finishes downloading, you can then go open up Cura. Now this is what you have for a print volume. Now, what you're going to want to do before that is you will go into Manage Printers or Add Printers. Manage Printers is for the printers you already have loaded. Add Printers adds a printer. Now, the thing you can do here is Ultimaker has holdings for both their own models of printer and non-Ultimaker printers. Choose your printer. Mine is the Cobra Max. This is what your build volume looks like. So then you come in here, you take a Mando helmet, and you load it in. Now for me, this is going to be a bit small because this is a small scale printer, but this is what you're going to get. This is how you will look at your file when it loads into your slicer. Now, obviously this is not going to be a great way to print this. So what you're going to want to do is click it. So you have this blue outline around it and these control nodes. You can swap between move, scale, and rotate. Rotate obviously rotates it, and just rotate it upright. Now you've got it looking at you, and you can click these little toggle buttons down here for a front view, top view, left or right view. I prefer to look at the front view so I know where my print is going to be oriented. Now after the fact, it's a matter of sizing. This will be something that you're going to want to do some measurements for. You're going to want to check, you're going to want to measure your head, and double check that things will be properly sized for you to use, because there's nothing worse than printing a helmet and it doesn't fit. So in the case of what I have, I already know some measurements that I need, and I know that if I print this helmet at 110% scale, it will give it big enough to fit my head and anyone similar in my case. So once you hit that, you simply just put in 110% scale, or you can put in a millimeter measurement, and that'll get it to you fairly precise. But one of the better options will be, and I'll cover this in another video, is to use a sizing head file. We'll go into that in depth later. So what you're going to want to do, now that you have this ready, is all of these red sections are overhangs. For the sake of time, I'm not going to put any support blockers in. I'll cover that with my sizing head video. But all you need to do is hit slice. This file is loaded. You just have to slice it. So once you click slice, you just gotta wait a little bit. It's not gonna take too long depending on the size of the file and the size of the print you're going to do, but that also depends on your computer itself. So following that, while we wait, this is where you can decide on your fine tuning. Now, like I said before, all of these red zones are considered overhang points that will need to be supported, because since this prints in layers, if the bottom layers are not supported, the top layers are going to fail. If the bottom layer fails, the top layer fails. Your print fails. That's very frustrating. Nobody wants to have a print fail. And right about there, we will be complete. So now when that completes and it finishes cutting, what you're going to get is you'll get a 2 days, 4 hours, 45 minutes. That's how long it's going to take to print this helmet. 691 grams of filament or 231 meters. These are your filament usage measurements. You're going to want to keep an eye on these depending on the spool you're using. So you can preview this if you want, and it will load a preview of the G-code that's going to be put on your printer. So this will show you the red portion is the file itself, sliced into its layers. The blue portion are support structures. These are what will support the overhangs on certain sections. Now, in the case of these center ones, usually you don't need these, but I'll go over those in a further video. So simply now that it's sliced, if you want, you can drag this slider down. You can have a look at how it would print. You can see where the layers would be. You can have a look at how things are going to be printed. This helps with deciding if you actually need to put a support in a certain section or not. But regardless of the fact, you now have your sliced file. So the next step would be to, depending on how your printer works, some work with Ethernet cables, some work with SD cards. In my case, my printer has an SD card. So the next step that you need to do is insert your SD card into a card reader. If your computer doesn't have one, you can always get a multi-one like I have here. And after the card is in your card reader, all you have to do next is click Save to your removable drive. That is what it will show up as in your computer. It will take a moment to load the file and the G-code. Eventually, it will save. Following that, you can move over to the center here and click Eject. Gives you the safe option to remove your SD card from your card reader, which means you can take it over to your printer. So after you've safely ejected your hardware, grab your SD card, pull it out, and take it over to your printer. Most of these printers have a slot in the front. You can put your printer SD card in, and then all you have to do is turn your printer on. The power switch, you're going to give it a little bit to boot up because it's going to take just a few minutes, or in my case, a few seconds. And once your printer has fully completed its boot cycle, you can then home the axis. Most of these printers will have an auto home function. I know mine does, and it is fantastic. Your printer will then home itself on every axis. Once the print nozzle touches the bed, you will be ready to start preheating. Or if you're ambitious, you can start preheating it now and wait. Once the bed has completed homing, you go to Prepare, Preheat, and depending on your material, in my case, PLA, so my printer will start its preset systems. And that's how you start a 3D print. Now, you get to play the waiting game.